Welcome back to the Real Talk Corner podcast, where we dive deep into personal journeys and topics that can inspire and transform us on a mind, body, soul, and spirit level. I'm your host, Ariana Gutierrez, and today we're having an important and deeply personal conversation. Joining me is Peter from Pete versus Anxiety podcast, who has firsthand experience with transgenderism through his sister's journey from female to male. We'll dive into the emotional, social, and family aspects of this transition, exploring the challenges, growth, and insights that come with supporting a loved one through such a profound experience. This is a conversation about love, understanding, and the complexities of identity you won't want to miss. The Real Talk Corner. We back. We in the building. As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, fighting my way through the darkness where the wicked don't rest. Conscious aware, truth I dare, shield tied to my chest. My tenacity can put these motherfuckers to the test. High priestess of fire, alchemistic desire. I say manifest and shit, even when I am tired. You can call me amazing by the bricks I be laying, but you'll never call me lazy, cause my vice are devastating. In the league of my own, spitting real talk energy. I know a little something about a thing called synergy. This is old radio, throw a sending masses awaken me. Listen up, cause we about to set your mind, body, and soul free. All right. Welcome to another episode of the Real Talk Corner. I'm your host, Ariana Gutierrez, and today I have a special guest, Pete, host of Pete versus Anxiety. I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about what he does before we get into our main theme today.
Hey guys, Pete from Pete versus Anxiety podcast. My podcast is about mental health. It's basically my journey through the mental health system and other people sharing their stories. I do have professionals that come on and share their different views and how they handle different areas and offer great advice to people to let you know that, you're not alone and there's ways to handle these things versus, the whole, well, not saying anything to anybody kind of thing.
Definitely. I think it'll be very interesting to see your show and just the information. I think it's gonna come together very beautifully. But that is not the topic for today, you guys.
Right.
we definitely go into those things, and we definitely can again. But today we are talking about transgenderism, and today we're coming from the perspective of support, the family member who has stood by and watched and experienced on a secondhand basis. And I think people have a lot of conversations about the person who transitions, but I don't think we get a lot of conversations with the family and the friends that are kind of going through it with them, right? So let's go into your journey first. I'm sure there was a moment of even your because it was your sister who transitioned, right?
Yes, it was my sister.
So I know there's a moment of the coming out and the going through that phase. How did that feel on your end of what
You
happened?
know, I've always been his biggest supporter. Even when he transitioned, I had a feeling ahead of time. Like there were things I noticed,
Mm,
that he dressed different, and things he kind of like carry him a different way. And his friend was his girlfriend. And it's like, I told him, I pulled him aside and said, hey, listen, if there's something you need to say, just tell me, man, I'm here for you. Like that's what family's for. Like I've been his biggest support system the whole step. I've been there since day one, all the way to where he is now, actually. So.
right. And now, was it something that he did like young, or did he wait until he was like an adult to start?
He waited till he was an adult, basically. I think he knew early on that he was going that direction. I think it was more of a journey on his own discovery to figure out everything. Like he was a girl at first, and then he went to transition to a boy. And I
Mhm.
think the hardest part he said was when we had discussed it was that he was trying to tell my mom, who didn't take everything too well. Like she was not very open to the idea.
Right,
So
right,
I do remember him writing this like 3-page letter to her, and it was rough. It was rough because he didn't know what to say, and he felt like, oh
right,
no, how is she going to take this kind of thing like that?
right, right. So that we went through. So he went through. just being like lesbian, and then
He went lesbian.
okay,
And then I think when as he got further into discovering himself, he
mhm,
actually started having like the different procedures. Like he had his boobs removed and everything like that. So I was there
right,
for that.
right,
I kept in touch with him. He kept us updated on that kind of stuff, and he went through that whole journey and
right,
everything as he transitioned into being more of a man than seen as a man than versus a female.
mm-hmm,
And it was funny at first because the whole pronoun situation. I know a lot of people get upset about it, and they're all
right,
like, "Oh well, you're not using the right pronouns." Well, he'd laugh at me when I mess up because I try so hard not to, and he's like, "No, man, it's okay. I understand. It's cool, totally."
right, right, right. Yeah, on the side of, I think where people forget is that there's a lot of people who aren't going to know, right? There's a lot of people who aren't going to know, not going to understand. And I think that it's like someone can try to understand what you're going through, but they'll never understand unless they're sitting in your spot, right?
Yeah,
And I think we
exactly.
forget that. And so there's so many people that are like angry, but it's the anger is going to the wrong people. Your anger about whatever's happened in your life, and now the first person who misgenders you, there's a lot of them that are like going off, and I think that's of course a lot of social media too, to hype up the nonsense behind it all. And
It's
like,
funny you say social media. I don't know if you've ever seen that girl on TikTok. I don't remember the exact name of the account, but that's the situation that just really kind of like bothered me. It's like she'd go to restaurants, and then when she get accidentally misgendered, she'd freak out. And they're like, "Oh, I need to talk to the manager. I need to talk to him right now." Da, 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 and just make a bigger deal about it. Even though
right,
this person's not trying to do it on purpose, she's kind of like
right.
setting them up for failure. And
It's
it's I think that's the message a lot of people are getting.
Is it the one where she has the beard, like she has a beard, kind of, she has facial hair?
Yeah, she actually
Right.
no, I don't think she did. No, she didn't have facial hair. She
No.
looked full transitioned, but
Okay.
she basically she would sit there and order, go to restaurants and stuff, and then she'd say, my pronouns are this, and and to give him the pronouns to the waiter, and the
Right.
young gentleman or whatever, he'd come back and he actually say sir,
Right.
and she'd freak out, start
Right.
having a heart attack, getting all upset, and riling people up, and that's the problem with social media nowadays. I feel like it's
Yeah.
portraying the wrong image instead of accepting people for who they are. It's like, hey, we're going to cause a lot of problems because you don't use my correct pronouns, even though these
Right.
guys are kind of in a setup situation for that whole thing.
Right. I've seen one, but I think the one I've seen really looks more manly.
Yeah.
She doesn't really look feminine. And I know that, like, when we think there's actual women who look manly, like, it's not like there aren't women who don't look manly, or they
Yeah.
don't look just like their father, or, their genetics didn't come out there. So it's not that far fetched. What I think, what myself too, what is the irritation of that kind of behavior of the, I'm going to go to these places with the intention of starting, because you're not filming this for no reason. You're not going to these restaurants for no reason. You're going so that you can create this content for your TikTok. But then that brings a negative light for people who are actually just trying to live their lives. Because I think most people who go through, especially transitioning, just want to live their life. They're not trying to be in the spotlight. They're not trying to have all eyes on them. And so I do think that people like that, especially, I've seen some that are like men with facial hair and stuff, and it's like, how would I be able to address you the right way? How would I know? You know, there's
Yeah.
so many different terms. Like, literally, I've done a couple shows on the different things with transgender. I'm like, I didn't even know there were so many pronouns when it comes to people's sexuality.
Right. Yes. Yes. And I think that's the crazy part about it. What is it now? LGBTQ plus and all that kind of. It's just getting crazy
The
now.
whole fucking alphabet, and I'm like, why? We it's crazy to me, because it's like we everyone doesn't want to be in a box, but then we're throwing everybody in a box, right?
Exactly.
Don't label me, don't mean put in box them, but no, but we need more letters to identify us. And I'm like, what are we really saying? Is that what we're really going through? So when we kind of look on the mental aspect of it, I do think there's a lot of that going on, where it does overshadow probably the people who are truly going through their transitions and truly feel those ways. And then you have a lot of other people that are just going through whatever mental crap they got going on and need attention, because I don't think someone who truly just wants to live their life is videotaping everything in every conversation and putting it out there for, everyone to see.
Yeah, like the real world vibes for the younger generation. The real world was that kind of scenario, just like she just described. Basically,
Right.
you're recording everything going on at all times. Like they act like TikTok's something new. No, listen, this has been around since the
Oh,
'90s. Okay,
we
the way
watch
they've approached things is differently and stuff like that. But you're right though. When it comes to the mental aspect, I feel like we're giving the wrong message to people, and that's why people get so irritated because they're like,
right,
well, if I don't use the right pronoun, this is going to upset them. So now you have the group that is an antagonist is going to
yeah,
go do it just to get you upset because they want
right,
to see you get a fix out of it. And
right,
there's the other group that's just like, they're like, well, I want no part of this whole situation. It's just stupid. Can we just stop
right,
it? And then there's the middle, like you described. They're just like, hey, I'm just here, man. I'm just trying to exist.
right. I don't know if you've ever seen like I think his name is Jeffrey something on TikTok, and
Jeffree
he's
Star.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
I
Well,
did a show on him, and I think these are the reasons why people are now in fear and thinking everybody is the same, because you have people like this that are coming out that are so creepy with their content. It's really creepy. And my whole thing is the children. I do have the thing of wait if you're a
yeah.
child. I understand. I mean, I was a girl who went through a lot of different things because I was a tomboy. So we have the thing of you got to do this if you're a boy, you got to do that if you're a girl, right?
Yeah.
And so it's been like that. It's a little bit different now because we're in 2024. But I mean, I grew up in the 80s, so it was like you need to put on a dress and be girly, and I was outside in the mud, right? So I think like let kids be kids versus pushing them to like, just because you pick up a doll doesn't mean you're a little girl,
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
kids can pick up anything. They're toys, they like colors. Like, and so I feel like it's like just let kids be kids. They will figure it out at some point. They, especially teens. Teens are angry and don't know what the hell they want to do. Life is
Right.
horrible as a teenager. So it's just
We
like
we all went through that phase. We hated our parents. Come on now. We all
you
both know
hated
how that went.
everybody. You hated everybody. You were angry.
Right.
And boys have that testosterone, so you fucking are angry for no damn
Yeah.
reason, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
girls are crying over every fucking thing. So it's like let them go through that. And then if you get to your adult phase and you're still like, all right, this isn't it for me. All right, start to look at it like that. But the whole problem, like California, who, is one of the biggest states that's like, you got these teens that are getting their breasts chopped off and stuff like that. I think that's where it's just like, where do we draw the line for children? I'm like, adults, do your thing. Like if
Yeah.
a woman wants to go get a butt lift or a breast, whatever the hell you guys want to do, go do it. You're an adult. It's your life. Whatever the consequences or what you got to go through is on you. But it's when the kids are going through it, because we know kids can believe anything. I mean, I was a 5-year-old who wanted to be a Care Bear. If you would have told me I was a Care Bear, I would have believed it.
I want to be the Ninja Turtle as a kid. So,
Right. And I love Ninja Turtles also.
oh
They
my
were the
God,
shit,
yes.
right? So it's like we would definitely would have signed up. Yeah, I'm a turtle. You couldn't tell me anything else, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, children, you actually can influence them and get them to believe very quickly on things. But it's just like the adults, yeah, let them go do their thing. But unfortunately, we have people like Dylan. I know you've seen Dylan on. We have people like this that is like 365 days of girlhood. And it's just like, well, this is creepy. We don't even celebrate this shit like this, okay?
Yeah. Yeah. The
Like,
internet's ruined. The internet's ruined life for everybody these days. You kidding me? Like they just have too much access to all this stuff, and it's just like, well, this is weird. I tell people all the time, I'm like, go watch a '90s commercial and then tell me what you really think, because we got away with a lot more than you think we did.
I do, it's way more sensitive these days,
Mm-hmm.
because if you
Mm-hmm.
look back, there was way more harshness in shows. It was funny, we could laugh at this stuff, and
Yeah.
it's like we've taken all of that away. You can't laugh at certain things. Everything is so fucking serious. It's like, why do I need to be so serious about everything? That's what got us through hardships, was laughing
Right.
at this shit, right? But now you can't say anything. You can't make the wrong remark. You can't misgender. Like, you could go to jail in some states. It's like, what the hell is going
It's
on
just,
out here?
and it's like you said, it's the generation's getting softer, and they all hate hearing that, but unfortunately it's the truth. Some of
True.
y'all just can't handle criticism. Like we got criticized hard as kids. Like you all don't understand. Go ask your grandparents what it was like. Like some of them are like, my mom will lie to my kids and be like, "Oh, well, I didn't do that to you." I'm like, "Listen, lady, I lived through these things. I
Right.
know you did these things to me."
We were
Don't tell
just
him you didn't do that because you know you did it.
right. Like if we didn't have a say, we just, you had to do what you were told. And not to say that, yeah, it's not a good thing to see people more vocal because even I raised my daughter to be more vocal and tell me what was going
Yeah,
on. Because in my
definitely.
house, you were a child who was seen, not heard. That kind of
Yeah, yeah,
that
same
kind of
here.
but and I taught her to be more vocal, but it's like now we want to be more vocal, but you guys can't even take when someone's giving you good criticism. Like criticism is not always bad. Just
No,
because someone's telling you you're doing something that maybe they see wrong, or maybe you could do it better, or maybe slow down. It's just like, oh no, you're phobic. Everybody's fucking phobic about everything, right?
they're like, oh no, stop, stop.
Just like when I heard the fucking fat phobic shit, I'm like, because
Oh
someone tells
God.
you you're fat, they're phobic. Wait, phobia is a fear of something, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like, how are we
exactly.
using these terms? I'm like, what are
Like, let them experience a real phobia, then we'll talk about what you really think it means because it's
right,
just an endless amount of stuff when it comes to that kind of stuff too.
right? Even like if someone doesn't understand your journey, they're not
Hmm.
phobic. They just don't understand. They're
And,
not,
and then the thing too with that was is I could ask him any questions I want. My brother was
Mhm.
totally open. He's like, "Hey man, do you want to know something?" And I asked him the bizarre questions. So keep in
Right,
mind, I did ask him really weird things, but I was curious, generally curious, because I was just interested in how everything worked. And
right,
things like that because I didn't know enough about it, and it was still early on in that whole transitioning phase.
right,
He did the testosterone and started growing facial hair and stuff, so it was a little different at first for me. But
right,
I still knew who he was. He was still the same person. Either way that he is, he looks, doesn't matter. Still the same person to me.
right. Yeah, I think in that dynamic where you can ask and it's not like the person, because I do feel like, and we talked a little bit about like mental health, like what I deal with clients is working through the whys of why people want things. And I think
Yeah.
it's very important to understand your whys before you do anything major in your life, because, our ego can definitely set us up to think
Right.
we need
Right.
and want a lot of things, and then when you get down to it, some of those whys are not even true to self. So if you can get down there and understand it, I think having conversations with people is easier because you actually know the whys deep down within you. And you're not basing this transition off of some trauma or some whatever the hell you got going on underneath.
Right.
This is actually something different. And I have seen those levels on different people because everybody's journey is different, right? Nobody's journey is the same. And I love that you were able to ask questions and not just get this like, leave me alone. This is what I'm going through, slam the door in your face kind of.
And I think that's what opened my thoughts to being more open about it was because he was so open about sharing information with me. Because
Right.
I just had questions. I was just curious because I'm younger. He's my older brother. And I
Mm,
was like 18, 19 at the time when this whole thing started going down and he started making that choice. And I started noticing that, he preferred girls versus guys, which I was like, okay, whatever. That's cool, bro.
right.
I got your back regardless,
Right.
and things like that. And then he decided slowly to start transitioning and things like that.
Right.
Because he felt like he was more of a man than a woman. I was like, hey, still here, not going anyplace. And
Right.
like I said, he had to write that letter to my mom because she just was like, just like that person that could not handle anything. She'd freak out.
Was she religious or just
My mom, to my knowledge, just didn't like change of things. Like she
mm,
wasn't okay with the whole thing. She wasn't okay with it at first, but now she's real supportive now. Like
right,
my
right,
mom I have a younger sister. She just turned 21 now. Um, and when she was younger, my mom was very cautious about my brother going around her because she didn't want her to ask questions about him because she wasn't comfortable with the subject.
right, right,
Now she can talk to her about it and everything else and stuff like that. So she already knows.
right.
So I've explained to my kids that I'm like, just so you know, your uncle Travis, which is my brother, was actually a girl. And I had to explain this to my 12-year-old, and she was like, what do you mean, Dad? I'm like, let me break it down for you now.
Right, right,
And
right,
they were just like, none of them knew. I mean, and it wasn't the fact of the matter
right,
was because they seen an older picture of him, and it was like, who's that, Dad? I'm like, that's Uncle Travis.
right,
That's
right,
girl, Dad. I'm like, okay, well, let's go down the road with it. You guys are smart because they were 12 years old. They're really smart. I'm not gonna deny them the knowledge to know what
right,
happened. I didn't go into the gritty details of it, but I just, because
right,
they'd seen older pictures of us when we were kids and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
And at the time my grandmother had passed away, I had her. She had Alzheimer's, so they had to
Mm,
help her jog her memory of exactly who we all were and stuff. And that photo of my brother, me, and my sister were there, and they were like, "Dad, who's your sister? I thought you only had brothers. There's only." I'm like, "No, no, that's your uncle Travis
right.
before he transitioned." And they were okay with it too. And I told them about it because they asked questions and stuff, and he was totally okay with that too. He didn't care. And that's the great thing about it, is that that they were just like very receptive to what I was telling them,
Right.
things like that. And I feel like a lot of people need to start to figure that out too. Is just be okay with things, guys. It doesn't matter. Just
Right.
because people look different doesn't mean they're different.
I was gonna say, like on the other end, I think what I see the most happening is that people get into their feelings of what they perceived life would be with this person, right? So especially as parents, it's like, oh, you're taking my son away from me, or you're taking my daughter away from me, right? And they're caught in this trap of what they expected life to be. One of the biggest things is they go through that you're taking my daughter or my son away from me. So it's the perception of I have a daughter, I have a son, and now I won't, And that I think is the biggest thing when people are the support staff or, in the family of going through it, have to take that step back and take away what they thought life was supposed to be.
Yeah,
What they thought this person's life was supposed to be. It's kind of the same thing we talk about like with grief, where someone has to look at it and be like, you thought life was going to be 80 years with this person, but life wasn't. So now you have to come to terms with the reality of what's going on. A lot of people
exactly.
struggle with that. I think is their biggest problem. They don't want to believe, or they don't want to come to terms with this is the change, right? Because it's a huge
Yeah,
change. It's not a small change, it's a huge change for someone to go through, especially the complete transition with everything. I think it's huge, but it's still not up to you as a person, regardless to what you're feeling. It's not up to you, it's up to the person, and just the vice versa on the other side, the person who's going through the transition. I think they, unfortunately, it may be unfortunate, but there's a possibility people will not be receptive, right? There's a possibility you will lose family and friends because of your decision. Unfortunately, that's the world we're in. In a perfect world, yeah, everyone would be happy and no one, no one would go.
right. Everybody be everybody's cheerleader. Yeah, definitely.
But it's just not realistic. There's a lot, again, we talk about ego, there's a lot that goes on in the mind of what you think is supposed to be going on. I get a
Yeah,
lot of especially on my Facebook, I get a lot of, I call Bible thumpers, who I post stuff and they like to jump on and quote scriptures and sin and all of these things, and I actually absolutely love it. It gives me content to talk about. but
exactly.
um but one of the things I see too is that the shadowing of religion, still the whole shadowing of religion. And I personally don't feel like, who cares who you love? I really don't like it unless it's a child and it's creepy.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I think that should be the only time we're like, no,
yeah. I
other
agree.
than other than that, it's just like, why is there this big deal still in 2024? Like, what the hell, And I constantly say it all the time. It's like, what the hell is this? Who cares? Like, if I meet someone, I don't give a shit about your sexual preference. Like, I don't care if you're gay, straight. That's when I meet you that's not something I need to know because I don't care.
Exactly.
So I think the whole thing where people are like, now you meet someone and it's just like, okay, what's your pronouns and what's this? And I'm like, who cares? Why do
Exactly.
why do we need to know what why does this need to be my, new life? And I think that's another thing where people are like, I don't need to go through life of every person I meet, hey, what's your pronouns, and go through this whole thing. And it's like ridiculous to me, unless like you really feel you want to present and let me know, like, hey. But to just this whole thing, like this added step, it's kind of like, for what? Who cares?
Right.
The only things I care is, are you a good person? Are you a predator? You know what I mean? Like, those are the things I care. And you can kind of see with people's actions if that comes out that way. But it's pretty trippy. So what were some of the biggest challenges? Because I know you talked about your mom. Was your dad around? Did your dad
My
go?
dad was my dad was around. We lived with him. Later on, my dad and my brother actually ended up getting an apartment together. This is before my dad got married, and this is the start of when his journey really started happening. my dad was pretty much at work most of the time, so he, but my dad's always been supportive of everything. He still loves to send it each way. He's already told us that several times. He doesn't care. It doesn't change the way he feels about it. And my stepmom is the same way too. She's very open, very receptive, everything, and stuff like that. So, but
Right.
the challenges I did see him have was just the struggle of just like getting used to the new him. Like he
Right.
had to taking testosterone, so now he's gaining like a
Right.
really bad acne, and then the facial hair and stuff like that. And then where he worked at the time, they actually had people go through sensitivity training, which was kind of nice actually. That since he was doing this whole thing and stuff like that, so that was his biggest fear too. Was just like a lot of the issues you run into is like, how is everyone going to perceive me? Are people going to treat me differently? Are they going to act weird around me? Because we know how everybody gets. They're like, oh well, just because you're gay, you're going to hit on me. That's not how it works, guys. Let's cut that
Right.
crap out real quick. If they were interested in you, they'll be interested. If you say you're not interested, they're gone.
Right. 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 Right.
And that's the funny part too. But like I said, it's great to watch though. It was really pretty interesting to watch, because as you watch him start evolving into where he is now, and all the steps and everything he's gone through a lot of stuff. He's had
Right.
a lot of crazy relationships, dealing with the adversity of my mom, and then the fact that he's got to worry about like, is everyone going to be okay with me transitioning? That kind of thing in the back of his
Right.
mind most of the time, and stuff like that too.
Right. It's not a small choice. It's not a small decision. It's huge. I do feel I do have like a sadness for anyone who does, because unfortunately the all the things that they have to do, because the biological part to it is always working against them to go back to what it feels is their normal, right? Male or
Yeah,
female. And so with the hormones, that's something for life. That's something that's not just going to be a couple shots and they're done, right? That is now
no,
the lifetime of medications and things like that, to be in the, at least as much in the body as that you want to be in and that you feel comfortable, right? And then we know that a lot of those surgeries are permanent,
yeah,
the surgeries, but not on the estrogen and testosterone level, that your body's never going to make it. Um, your body's never going to make it. So you have to get the synthetic. You have to go in and get that. And that's forever, which I think that, and I don't think there's enough studies yet or enough information to see what that looks like for them in a long-term basis, right? I don't think there's enough out there to kind of go by to understand, even on a mental aspect for them, what will that do after 20,
yeah.
30 years, and we just don't have enough information to even go by at this time.
Yeah, and the other thing too is he was in the military. So keep in mind at this time, the military is not openly accepting to these kind of things. It's like,
Right.
they're so he had to keep it kind of hush hush for a little bit that he was gay, because the military wasn't viewing it that way. They didn't care.
Right.
Hey, he wants to serve his country, do what he can, all that kind of stuff. They want to be, and it was just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's rough. Military is a rough place to be, just trying to fit in, and we think it's we think it's one way. It's definitely a lot of stories have come out,
Yeah.
with the military and just the way that they do things. It's
Yeah.
pretty harsh in there. So I'm sure just the fears of what that looks like. Am I going to
Yeah.
have a job?
Yeah, the anxiety alone of just like worrying about, well, what if somebody finds out? What's going to happen next?
Right.
Things like that. That
Right.
constant state of being like on edge, about, oh man, I got to be careful about doing this. I got to about that. The whole thing, like, leads to like bathrooms. Well, which one are you going to use? What you identify as, what I
Mhm.
mean? And things like that. Then that's when stuff really gets weird, because some people are taking advantage of it and acting really weird.
Definitely. And that's the thing that I've talked about before, because as a woman, and I always say that everyone has their experiences in life. Me, unfortunately, I've had the experience of being raped. So for me to be in a bathroom and a man comes in, that is something that I would be like on edge.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be something I'd be comfortable. And then especially like with a younger daughter, I would
Yeah.
be like, this is something that I'm not comfortable with this. And I think that's what happens is that we forget the reason why we even have male and female bathrooms. Like the reason
Right.
why we have the separate bathrooms. And unfortunately, it's more normal for women to get raped and molested, by men. And so there's gonna be a lot of women who are not comfortable, especially if you're presenting or look like a man. If you have that structure, that body typing, in that, a lot of women are not going to be comfortable. And I get the other side of that as the going in the male's bathroom and having to deal with that shit. It's kind
Yeah.
of like, so I love the places that have done the alternate bathrooms. They've done the alternate unisex, or, I can't, all gender bathrooms. I've seen some that say like all gender, and they kind of do private where you go in and there's no stalls. It's just the room. So I like that some of the establishments have changed it in that way, because it is hard. You're not going to get everyone on the same page of that, because
No.
everyone has a different life. Everyone's gone through different experiences, and it's so hard to say, like, yeah, I understand you want to be over here, but what about me? Like, it's like, well, what
Exactly.
about me? And then you have the ones who are guys pretending, right, so that they can get in those spaces. And we've seen a lot of that on different news stories, and just the craziness. I think I saw one where they were in a spa, and the guy was in the women's like dressing room, just full naked, and he was still a man. Everything was still, and it's just like, you told the front desk that you're transgender, but you're still a whole man. Like,
Right. Yeah.
why would you be in the spa and there's children in here? Like, who would be okay with that, right? And
Exactly.
they were so, and the spa was so afraid to say something to the guy, because fear of being, lawsuit and everything else, that they were just like, there's nothing we can do. And then, so it was a whole big old thing. They were recording it. And then come later on, they found out the guy was a sexual predator. And so I'm like, see, this is the problem of, it's not that every person who's, oh, you're transgender, you're a predator, but there are people who are going to take advantage of this. There just
Exactly.
is. And so we have to think about that also when we're changing rules, and we're changing guidelines, because even in, like, and I always go to California, because California is like the breeding ground to all of this shit. But even California was like one of the first ones to start, if a man was like, oh yeah, I'm really a woman, and then send him over to the women's prison, and then they're having things where, people are being hurt, and people are being, these are predators that are doing that. You had one in New Jersey where he actually got some women pregnant. and it's
Yeah.
like, and it's like, what are we doing here? What
It,
are we really doing here? How is this really helping people? Like, I get, and and that's a whole nother story of going to jail and then going through the issues, especially men go through some issues if they're gay and they go into jail. I get that. But it's like, just create a wing then, for safety reasons, just like you would put a harsh killer over somewhere else. They wouldn't be in general population, because you're trying to keep them away. Well, maybe separate the population. But is the best thing to do now to go send them over to the women's prison?
yeah, exactly. Or think of the Olympics recently with the whole controversy about the boxer that
Right,
had the male features, that
right,
and stuff like that. It's just
right.
it's just crazy. And then people get mad because they get eliminated. Well, you're not
Right,
going women versus women. You're going a man who's posing as is identifying as a woman,
right.
going against women. You're not having fair competition. And I think people seem to
No.
forget that a lot too.
Yeah, because I remember when it started with the Olympic swimmer, or was she Olympic swimmer?
I think it was the swimmer, yeah.
And I can't remember the name, but he was presented as a girl, and then he was basically winning a competition in there. A lot of the women were upset because he was in the dressing rooms, but he still had his penis,
Yeah.
still had that. So that's the thing where it's kind of like, now we're doing too much, because again, the whole reason why we have women's sports is because women cannot compete with men like that. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
great women and they can do awesome, but when you get in the ring with men who have been training, they're not the same. Physically, we're not the same.
No.
And I think we get lost in this whole equality shit, but it's like, we're not the same, right?
Right.
I get people want equality, but how can we really be equals when we're not? Physically, we're not.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I'm
And
constantly
like
talking about
and
this.
like you said, men and women are totally different. Even their physical structures are different. So
Yes.
I mean, a lot of people seem to forget that too. They just want something to argue about. I feel these days it's just like, oh
Right.
well, let's start crying wolf, and then eventually, somebody
Right.
will come, and
Right.
it's just ridiculous. It really is.
But they're showing you that this, like the swimmer, he was someone who was very low in the men's category, hopped over to the women's, beaten all the women. There's actual teen male teams that have demolished women adult teams in things. That boxer who was presenting as a woman damn near killed that girl in the was a MA, right? The MA fighter. It's
Yeah,
just like, so when do we like, maybe this is too much? Maybe we're
exactly.
going, and I look at my thing is because I'm not a feminist. So I look at women and go in that rah feminism shit. And I'm like, you guys don't really want to be treated equal with a man, you
Yeah.
know, because when you do, this is where women are going to really get hurt out there because you guys want to think that we're equal and we're not equal, you know?
Yeah, you don't see women playing football because we already know what's going to happen. It's going to be like a situation like that movie Lucas, where the little kid wanted to play so bad that he didn't care what it took. He went out there and then he got tackled and got crushed, and
Right.
it's just not going to work because it doesn't match up like that.
Those men are fucking huge.
Yes, they are. Some of those
even,
dudes are massive.
and even if you got the most big, tallest women to go fucking play, they still wouldn't be able to get a hit from one of those linebackers. Like, come on
Oh
now.
God, no.
Like,
Even
it's
even
like,
in the NFL, even changed the way they were tackling people because they started
yeah,
noticing there were problems too, and all the concussions were causing different mental problems as well later down the road. Like Junior Seau had all that issues too,
right.
and things like that. And then if you're a pro wrestling fan, remember Chris Benoit was the one that he went completely berserk and ended up killing all his family and then himself. And it's just like a lot of these people are just like, oh yeah, let's do this, let's not. How about not? Because we've seen it doesn't end well for us.
No.
It's
I think
crazy.
unfortunately it's the people who are truly sick that are pushing it, right? Because they want to see it, right? They're
Hmm.
demented as hell, playing the role as, oh yeah, we support you. They just want to see the carnage. And then you have the other people over here that are so fucking clueless. It's just like, no, it's like there's a reason men are men, women are women. Like, I get if you don't feel, and I get if you want to go through the transition, I get
Yeah,
all of
definitely.
those things. But biology wise, when we come back to it, there's a biology aspect to it that we just can't say doesn't exist. So, if you were born a male, you're not going to be able to compete with women because you're going to demolish you, because all you need is the training. Once you get the training, I've seen a lot of like very flamboyant guys like, oh, I wouldn't be able to do that. Of course, you're not training. I couldn't go
Hmm.
in the ring and do it either. You know what? I'm not training. But you get
Right.
someone who's training, who's they put you through that, you're going to be able to now demolish the women. It's not going to be fair.
Yeah, it's not going to be a fair competition. Or was it South Park touched on it too, where they had the Macho Man that held everybody who's a woman? That shows. I'm telling you, man, they cross boundaries, but it's like they're
Like,
not wrong though. Think about it, because now we're dealing with that problem now.
yeah, yeah,
It's like, well,
yeah,
they predicted it, kind of like the whole theory with the Simpsons, how they were predicting different events ahead of time, and a lot
right,
of people are like, man, didn't we just see this a while ago?
right.
And things like that. So,
It's like, boom, here it is. Yeah, it's
right,
like I just I'm like, I love your story that you guys, even though you had challenges, it seems like you guys were still able to, um, as a family, kind of come together
oh
and
yeah,
work through the issues. And I love that your brother was open enough to be like, hey, whatever you guys want to know, just ask, not, take it in any way, or not, make it worse than what it need to, or they'll run off, into the
yeah,
abyss,
exactly,
because that's another thing people do. They kind of cut the family off if they don't understand completely, and everybody's against you. But I think that's also the people that they talk to, because there's that side. If your family doesn't understand, then leave them, and kind of cut them off. And so I'm glad that you guys didn't go through that.
yeah,
Because I think that just creates more problems. Because again, I feel this is something that will, like, if you you wouldn't understand, right? If you're not the person, how would you understand? Or
Exactly.
you wouldn't. You would have to ask them, how do you feel and what's going on and what does that mean? So that you can try to wrap your head around why would you want to, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, the world is a crazy place, and I think that's why I said a lot of people, I think people think they're against transgenderism, but it's not being against it. It's just like there's a fine line with what we're doing out here. And it's like, yes, I'm one of those people, like, go live your life as an adult as long as you're not hurting people. But of course, I come back to the children, and then of course women's spaces, because it's like
Exactly.
we have our spaces for a reason, and then there's a lot of backlash and a lot of shit happening with that. And it's just like men have their spaces. I'm sure men don't want a bunch of fucking women in their spaces for a reason. you know
Yeah, yeah, I get, and it's, the whole persona of men need a man cave. I'm like, I wish I had a man cave. I really do. My wife would probably still be in there with me anyways. I've turned her into a gamer too, so like that stuff. She gets into my general interests, and like,
right,
I'll watch football and she'll try to watch it. She really tries to watch it with me, but she's just like, she can't handle all the screaming, yelling I'm doing.
right.
I'm
Yeah,
shouting at the TV, hopping up and down.
yeah, I'm not a sports fan, so I don't have teams and all of that. I've tried to watch
Yeah,
many sports, but I'm just not a sports person. So for me, it's like my person, they, hey, go do your thing, go have, go watch it, go whatever. I just can't get into it. It's not my thing.
right.
And I feel like you should be able to have your hobbies, and it's cool if your partner likes the things that you like. I have nothing
Yeah,
against that, but I also think you need time apart also to go do whatever you're doing. You do what you're doing. We come back. So
yeah,
I'm like,
definitely.
yeah, I'm like the man. My brother always had a man cave. I always had his man cave, and it's just like, hey, do you, have your time, your boys. You watch whatever the hell y'all watch. He always had it all set up. So yeah, he'd be in there gaming sometimes. He'd be in there watching shit on his TV, or sometimes music or whatever. And it's
Yeah,
just like,
yeah.
why not?
My
Have
wife's
your
big with music. She likes to do her own thing. She likes country. I
mm,
don't. I try to like it. I try to be nice and like it. There are some songs I like here and there. I'll pick up some as I go. But then she flips the script on me sometimes and starts playing some of the stuff I like. I'm like, wait, whoa, where'd this come from? Hold up.
it's like for reals. Yeah, so it's like we can have differences and still get along
Exactly.
and be okay with it, right? Um, did this experience change the way you saw transgender people?
I'm a big supporter because of him. Like, I seen what he goes through
Hmm.
and things like that, and what he had to deal with, and a lot of the crazy shit that just went on with the whole thing. He even actually got asked to join a panel where he was helping other people that were considering, younger adults that were thinking of transitioning, and he was trying to help them understand, this is going to be a process you're about to go through. Like,
Right.
understand, you're physically and mentally going to change how you think about things. Going man to woman, you're going to look at things from a different aspect now, whether it be the alpha male theory of, oh, I have to be so strong for it, kind of thing like that, and
Right.
stuff like that. So
Definitely. You
it,
step in those shoes, and now the men are expected to do a lot and provide and
yeah,
you know create that safety. And like I've come across a lot of men who don't really, even my brother, I've seen him where it's just like a lot on his shoulders, but that's the way the men are pushed. You're going to carry the weight of the family, the weight of everything, and you're not going to have a lot of time to sit back and cry about it or being your
right,
emotions about it, or you're just like constantly needing to find solutions for your family. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that you step into that arena, and now you're going to be the one who now needs to step up to the plate, and
right,
you're going to be pushed. There isn't a lot of room of crying and just sitting with your feelings and talking about it. Like, but men process differently. I don't really think that men need to sit around and cry about things. And I think when I talk to a lot of women, I'm like, you say you want a man to sit and be all vulnerable and cry, but the second a man does, that's a turnoff for most women.
or you label them a bitch, or whatever else you want
Right,
to call, or where you want to be, you want to call them. You make fun
right.
of them for that reason.
I've asked on lives because I do lives and stuff a lot. I've asked on lives like all you women or talk about you want this vulnerable man. The second you see him cry, what do you say? And they were saying the same thing. Bitch, he's this, he's that, he's
Exactly.
weak. And I'm like, exactly. So you even know that there's a difference between men and women, but you're lying to yourself and saying you want him to be like you. That's bullshit. You
Exactly.
don't want him to be like
Exactly.
that. So
No,
it's
you're
like,
not wrong. You're not wrong. I mean, that's a crude thing, though. It is bullshit. It's just like you say you want these things, and then when you get them, it's like, oh, never mind. I don't really like this anymore. It's not as
right,
exciting as it used to be, or oh, the new toys lost its shine. I don't like that anymore,
right,
and stuff like that. And it's just crazy, like And the question really we have to ask ourselves is, what are we teaching our youth these days? Like
right,
the way we make these people feel singled out is
right,
close to the idea of racism. You know how everybody's segregated. So you're basically segregating these group of people
right,
because you don't like something they are. So like it was back then. Martin Luther King had to deal with the fact he was black, and all the whites didn't like the blacks, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And you're basically doing the same thing, but in a different sense. And it's just crazy, guys. Like we don't need to do that kind of stuff. We're trying to get away from that kind of thing for a reason.
right,
And the fact you're dividing people into categories of different things because they don't see the same way you do is just it's just ridiculous. Like why do we do that? But then what message are you teaching the younger generation? Oh, well, it's okay to categorize people, and tell them it's not okay to be different. If you like something different from somebody else, then you're the outcast of the group. It just
right.
can't be like that. We don't need that mob mentality. It didn't work before, and it's not working now.
Hasn't worked in the eons of freaking human history.
God, you know what I'm saying? And then it's like, then what does it lead to? So you bullying these people because they're different than you, and then
Yeah.
that person may end up taking their life. Then you have to live with the fact that your words are the reason that happened.
Mm,
And people, the one thing I taught my kids was like, remember the things that you say to people because someday you won't be able to take those things back. Like,
right,
really honestly think about the hateful things you say to someone because at the end of the day, if they're not there anymore, you can't take it back. You can't go, oh, I'm sorry. It's just not going to work. You're not going to get that same
right,
satisfaction you would if they were sitting there looking at you eye to eye right there.
right. It's crazy because I was raised in the generation of sticks and stones may break your
Hmm.
bones, but words don't hurt. But they do. Words hurt and words break you down. And definitely that's something that my daughter teaches to her children is that be careful of what you say.
Yeah,
Say what you mean and mean what you say. Don't just say things, take a moment, process. Don't just say things because it does hurt. And we talk about this with them all the time. It's like you don't know what someone else is going through. Even as a
exactly.
kid, you don't know what they're going through. So be very careful of what you say and how you say it. And it's not okay, to just tease and all of it. And yeah, because kids tease, but I don't think kids are just mean. I don't think kids just, come out and they're racist. They don't
No,
just come out.
no, it's one of those product of your environment type things.
Yeah,
Remember, guys, that
they're
you learn a
they're
lot of
gonna
these values
mimic.
from parents.
They're gonna
Yes,
mimic what they see
exactly,
around them, right? So if
exactly.
your son and daughter is a little shit, guess what? They're mimicking.
She said that they're little shits.
They are. I've seen. I was recently at the store, and this lady had a little. I think he probably was like 4 or 5 in the cart, and she was putting a thing. She bought this thing of flowers, a vase. They had flowers in it, and
Yeah.
she put it on there, and the conveyor belt's going, so it knocked over, and then she had put like a card down too, so the card got wet, and the cashier who was finishing with me. She tried to grab it as fast as she could, and then she's kind of wiping it down. She picks up the card, kind of rings it and hands it back to the lady, but she's still trying to finish my transaction.
Right.
And then when I'm done, and so she's kind of walking up, and we hear, and she's like, the first thing she says to the cashier is like, "So how is this my fault?" And it's like, was it anybody's fault? The cashier really
Exactly.
didn't say anything. She just was cleaning the shit up and, going about her business. And I was like, this is the prime example of your child is watching you. Your child is mimicking you, how you treat people, how you walk around. So how you treat the cashier or how you treat the person who delivers your mail or the person who delivers anything. Every day you're trying who you're talking to or your little things that you say and you think the kids don't listen, that they're sitting in the back seat when you're driving, right? And they hear you cursing people out or talking shit about things. They're picking up all of those things
Hmm.
every day, all day. So if you see the kids that are just like, who is your parents? Because they're picking it up from somewhere. They didn't just get it from nowhere. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
no one is
Definitely.
teaching them that. The kids are not teaching them that. So they're seeing it from the adults and around them. And so I'm very big on that, of people just become aware of what you do in front of your kid, because your kid is then the kid out there bullying people, out there talking about people, singling out people,
Hmm.
laughing at people who have something that might be a little bit different, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
When we go through the whole, I don't think we need the whole thing. It's like, I'm not religious, right? But
Yeah.
I'm not going to go. There's tons of churches where I live. I'm not going to go there and start protesting or
Right.
blow it up
Or
or
what
all.
is it? Planned Parenthood, when they're all out there. Oh, well, I don't agree with this. So you don't know that person's situation. So calm down. First
Right.
off.
You know what? I saw this one where this guy was walking around and he was going up to, he did two of them. One was at the Planned Parenthood, of the people out there with these signs like, don't kill a life and this, that, and third. And it's just like, okay, so he's interviewing them and he's like, so you don't agree with this? And they're like, no, and they can't, and it's abomination and all this stuff. And he's like, okay, so you're gonna take the kid? And they're like, and he's like, no, you're gonna adopt it, right? They don't want it, so it needs a home. You're gonna take it?
Right. Exactly.
And their faces is like, wait a minute, like, no. What do you mean no? You're over here picketing, like you want this
Exactly.
child. Hey, take it home. And it's that
Exactly.
thought of, so many people are like, I'm all for pro-life, but I think there's a lot that we don't understand. I'm a very spiritual person. And so I think there's a lot we don't understand about the process of birth.
Yeah.
And I think
Exactly.
we automatically think right when the sperm and the egg coincide that life is there. And that's not really, we don't know. We don't know when the spark of life comes into, on a spiritual aspect, what I've asked questions in God, because I've dealt with a lot of grief and things like that, is that there's so many aspects to that, of that life. There's, so many different things. We don't know when the soul attaches. It's speculation,
Yeah.
So that whole thing of you're killing a life and stuff is like, it's beyond us. We don't know that for sure. We can't
Exactly.
say that for sure. So we're assuming. So it's like, just step back and take a second. The guy also did one where he was like, where somebody was like, on the immigrants, like, let them in, they need a place, blah blah blah. And the guy was like, okay, so they need a place to stay. You got a room for them? and the
Exactly.
and the people were like, my house is not that big. No, you said they need to come over. Give them a space in your house, because it's easily to say like, yeah, we need this change, but it's just like, when it's not affecting you, it's not
Exactly.
directly affecting you. So it's like, yeah, let's do this. But it's just like, no, these are big choices. And how can I tell you what you need to do with your life and say, because there's a tons of parents we know that we see every day. This is like, whoa, maybe you should have had kids.
My
You
favorite
know,
ones are the ones that try and have a conversation with them. Like, you do understand that they don't understand at that full intellect level what you're telling them. Like, you can use all these big fancy words. Well, I need you to stop. They don't care. And there's that whole mentality of versus spanking your child versus talking to them, and
right,
that's kind of like what it do. Like, when we were kids, we got whooped. Like, I
right,
told a lot of these young guys, I'm like, you know nothing. I
right,
said my mother would have caught you and grabbed you right there, and they, oh no, my mom would have never done it. Yeah, I know. I can tell.
right.
I can tell based on the way you're responding to this.
I used to laugh because I had my daughter really young, so she's in her late 20s now.
Yeah,
And I would laugh because we would get around certain people and their kid would be saying certain shit, and she would just look like, and they're still breathing like, wait, what? And I was never someone who just beat my daughter all the time. I got portrayed as I was just beating her all the time, but I said, if I have to, you're going to feel it. I'm not just going to put you over my knee and give
yeah,
you a couple taps. If I have to hit you, you're going to feel it, so you can think about your actions. And there were a couple things that she did were really bad, and she got her ass whooped. One time she stole from a store, and it was like, oh hell no, because I was a manager in retail, and I was like, this is not what we do. You're stealing from the employees. Went through
exactly.
the whole spiel. She got her ass whooped. I took her to the store. She had to take back everything she had took with her little friend, and I made her give it to the manager and apologize for what she did. You know,
Yeah.
And so my daughter will never forget that. She could name every time she got her ass whipped. It was like a few, but that stuck with her, so that when she got older, all I would have to say is, who are you talking to?
Exactly.
Because kids are like, and it's like, wait, who are you talking to? And then her voice would low down, like, wait a minute, let me bring it back real
Or you
quick.
give them that look, and it's like,
Yeah.
uh-oh,
It's
things
like,
are
wait.
about to go down.
And it's like, I get the whole, yes, I wanted my daughter to voice her, tell me what she's going on, tell me what she's feeling. But there's a way to say it. There's a matter of respect when you're saying it to me. I don't
Yeah,
mind hearing how you feel, but you're not going to do it in a disrespectful manner. So lower the tone, and then we
exactly.
can have the conversation, right?
Definitely.
And I'm like, how hard is that? How hard is that to teach your child to have respect? Like, some of these people, their kids are yelling at them, screaming at them, and it's like, where?
Right.
Why? And we wonder why we have mass shootings at school all the
Oh my
time.
God.
Like,
Yeah.
some of these kids should have got disciplined.
Yeah.
Maybe they would have feared somebody.
You figure we would have learned after Columbine to identify things like that, and
Right.
it's just nothing changes. Like, what's the one act in the world that's going to cause everybody to want to start doing something about this problem and stop letting it become a problem every time?
Right.
And it's crazy. It really is. They're so young, they don't know. They're so confused, or they're so felt left out, or something like that. And
Well,
it's sad. It really is.
that's definitely an education where I feel like we're slacking in public education,
Oh, we
because
are.
we have teachers who, I just saw a story on where these girls had went to the principal and the teacher and everybody, because another girl, unfortunately, she was a transgender boy who was transitioning to a girl, unfortunately. But whatever he was going through, he had a hit list on a bunch of girls that he was taking out. They went to everyone, untold them, no one did anything. Oh, nothing will happen. These little girls were scared as hell, right? Because the kids is running around a fucking hit list. I'd be
Yeah.
terrified too. They don't do nothing. One day in lunch, that kid decides to walk up on the first girl on his list, cracks her in the head. She starts bleeding. And I don't want to say luckily that happening, because they didn't get to the rest of the list. But it's just like, this is what had to happen for you guys to be like, oh shit, this is real. When,
Right.
when do we when do we say, like, wait, we found there's a list of fucking a hit list? When do we address that? When do we
Yeah.
sit down
Exactly.
and have the conversation? It's just like, why are we still not paying attention? And you have teachers that you're so more consumed with this child being friends with you in the class, or having these kids like you, versus being that mentor or that guide in the classroom and keeping the peace. And then, of
Exactly.
course, if you look at it, it's overloaded. There's like 40 kids in the class. Of course, these teachers aren't seeing everything, right?
Exactly.
So there's probably a lot. I know that there's a lot more than that, but we're definitely failing them in
Yeah.
the big aspect. I feel like if someone comes to you and says, like, bullying, I've talked about bullying. I've had a couple guests where we've talked about bullying, and it's the reason why it still exists is because people say, "Oh, that's just kids being kids." No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Kids aren't bullies. Kids are
Not
bullies
not
for a
not when
reason.
kids are killing themselves because they're being bullied so bad that they're
Right,
just like, and
right.
it doesn't stop there. People get online, and now they have more reach to you versus
Yes.
before it was just a telephone. Now it's Twitter, Instagram,
Yeah.
Facebook, TikTok, all these sites, and the things these people put is just insane.
The stuff that they say is, people are bold on the internet, which, of course, I am so glad I was not the generation online. Online didn't become a thing until I was already an adult. But the stuff that they say, and the things that they type, they're so bold and so
Hmm.
horrible. It's just like, would you really even say that? No, you would never say that to somebody. But on here, people type and they just say all types of shit, and they have no care. And I'm like, we've really desensitized people. With the love for each other and humanity is out the fucking window. It's like,
Exactly.
and I think that's where we're failing. We need to come back to that love for us and ourselves and each other. And it's like, if we don't do that, then we're just, yeah, shit's gonna fail. Yeah, shit's gonna
Exactly.
fall apart. Yeah, more people are gonna be murdered. you know,
Right. It's like, if you do nothing, nothing's going to happen. You say nothing, and then nothing happens. It's just like you said, it's going to come down to something's got to happen for you to finally realize, oh, well, this was a serious thing going on. Like, what
right?
else has to happen for you to understand that? Like, active shooter, You're just going to sit there and hang out all day? Oh no, it's not a problem. It's just an active shooter.
No,
Yeah, an active shooter means lock the building down. Like, they take those things serious. Like, so why don't you take all these other things serious, like bullying?
right,
Because you don't realize what the mental impact it has on kids, and we don't know what those kids are thinking or how they're feeling or how it's making them feel. And then when you continue to add all that on top of it, so we don't know if like they're having problems at home. Like say mom and dad are arguing all the time. They're taking that stress with them, and then they're dealing with you sitting there harassing them all the time, and they don't have a safe space. So they come to school and like, okay, I'm gonna be around friends. I'll be somewhere close, a safety net, and it's not like that anymore. It's just
right.
you just got so many different ways to jab at them, Snapchat, all that other stuff, and because my daughter dealt with that too, because
Mhm.
she was still trying to figure out whether she was into girls or guys. Um, she had got harassed. One of these guys that she was with, they had the little elementary school relationship thing.
Right.
So he got mad and started like making another Snapchat name and started like saying all these nasty things. And I was like, my daughter looked at me and said, "Dad, don't say anything." Because I'll call him right out. I don't care. I'll pull up to the school, roll the window down and say, "I'm sorry. Did you say the following things?" And just read them
Right.
out loud for him and ask him to say them to my face instead. I'm like, just tell me, because I gotta do nothing but sit there and laugh at you because it's not funny. Then when you get put on the spot, then you think you're Mr. Cool because you can
Right.
say all these hateful things, but then when you have to actually say it to someone, it's a whole other ball game.
Oh, definitely. That's why I say half of the shit people say online, you wouldn't say that to somebody. You wouldn't be
Exactly.
that fucking bold. No, you wouldn't say that.
Oh
You know,
man.
this is where a lot of parents are starting to take shit in their own hands, and this is why these childrens are taking it in their own hands
Hmm.
and bringing these guns and stuff to school, unfortunately, because nobody is advocating for them and they feel like there's no assistance. I saw a TikTok about a dad, and he was like, I went to the school. He was like, I kept telling them to whatever the little girl was bullying his daughter. And he was just like, they kept doing it, kept doing it. No one changed anything. We had the conversation with the parents, nothing changed. He was like, so what do? We jumped the dad. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yes, that's what I was thinking of too. I was like, oh no.
He was like, so
I'm
you didn't
sorry, Dad.
he was like, you didn't fix your child, so your child watched you get your ass beat, and these are the consequences to your actions. Which, again, if we don't teach children, there are
Hmm.
big consequences to your actions. This is why this stuff happens, because we're not really sitting them in and having the severity of some of the shit that they're doing. So they're walking around like, oh, until now you just watch your dad get his ass whooped, and you're like, damn, because of me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because
Yeah,
of me.
exactly. That could be me getting my ass beat right now.
I was like, and I can't
uh,
even be mad at the father. I was like, was it necessary? Probably not. But I can't even be mad at him because what did
yeah,
he do? He did
I can
what
understand his
he
level
did.
of frustration because
Yeah.
my oldest had to deal with bullying of that sort too because she was, experimenting with being gay and she doesn't know. She didn't know. She was 14 at the time, doesn't know. She's still trying to figure things out. And
Right.
I think she would tell me things just to see what I would say. And she's like, "Dad, I think I like girls." Okay, I still love you either way. What's the
Right.
point? I don't understand what the problem is here. Like, I still love you regardless. You're still my kid. Do you want
Right.
me to treat you differently? Because that's not going to happen like that, unfortunately. You could say whatever you want. You could say, you like balloons. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not going to treat you any differently. It doesn't
Right.
matter to me. Honestly, it doesn't matter. Like, and at this age, you don't really know. You're still discovering things. You're still, so,
Right.
she had a situation where I had to stand in just like that. I showed up to the school and I literally made some noise. And then that's for somebody to finally say something. And then it progressed to even worse that this young gentleman continued to be harassing her, throwing stuff at her in the lunchroom and stuff like that. I had to go up there and threaten to call a couple of friends that a couple of friends that went to high school to actually work for ESPN. I'm like, I'll call ESPN, man. I got friends up there. We'll get some people down here, make some noise. You want to be broadcasted all around?
Right.
We got you. Don't worry. You'll be on the Worldwide Sports.
Right.
But it's like you shouldn't have to act like that to
Right.
get someone to do something about it. And it's like I called and tried to talk to the principal, heard nothing from her. I ended up meeting I don't remember what he was, like a student advisor or something. He was the one that basically handled her grade level. And he
Mm.
understood exactly where I was coming from because he was a single dad, because I was a single dad too. And and everything like that. And I was taking care of these girls, and I I give credit to any single mom out there because let me tell you right now, it was hard as ever to take care of three girls on my own.
Mm.
They now live with their mom, but when they were living with me, I wasn't ready for what was happening next. They're becoming women.
Right.
The oldest one got her period, and I was freaking out. I was like, I don't know how to handle this. I have no idea what I'm doing here. Luckily, my parents live close by, and
Right.
they were helping us out, and everything like that. And my daughter had somebody she could talk to about it, because I'm like, you're talking to me. I have no clue what the heck we're even talking about here.
Right.
And you feel helpless, and it's like, well, this is not how we discuss this with your mom. I said, if they're girls, this will be your area to handle. If they're boys, I'll talk to them about the boy stuff, because I don't know anything about this stuff. So I had to learn
Right.
real quick about a lot of that stuff that females deal with and things like that. So I give credit to any single mom out there that's doing it, because let me tell you, I know what it was like. I was juggling all my own personal problems. I had my own health issues, and I had to take care of 3 kids on my own and put up a front not to let them know that I was having problems,
Right.
and like my health got worse. So that's the reason why they live with their mom now, is because my health was getting bad at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't want to tell them that, because you don't want them to panic on top of everything else I'm dealing with. I don't need them panicking on top of these things. And my own mental issues I was dealing with at the time. And a lot of it evolves from, my mom abandoning me when I was younger and things like that. And I didn't realize that's a lot of source for a lot of things, so.
Right. Right. Yeah, single mom here, definitely one of the hardest jobs out there. What I was going to say is, going back, I think that sexuality has been confused. I think people confuse
Mm-hmm.
sexuality with who you are. And the way society has been, we've taken sexuality, and it's like, if you want to experiment or do these things, you got to be gay, you got to be this, right? We put, of course, all these labels, and it's just like, sexuality is sex. it's
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like, oh, I like sushi, I don't like sushi, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's kind
exactly.
of one of those things, but we've put so much emphasis on it, like, as a characteristic of who we are, that this is why people go through so much shit about it. And it's
Exactly.
just like, it's not. It's literally, your sexual preference is like, just like how you got a preference on cars. You got a preference on the food that you like.
Mm-hmm.
You got a preference on all of this shit. It's the same thing, but we've put so much emphasis on it, of who we are. And I think that's where we need to separate it. We need to separate it, and get people to understand that no, it's not. Put it back in the box it deserves to be in. Because there's a
Right.
lot of talk, like, if men experiment too, oh, you're gay. And it's just like, put sex back in the box where it needs to be. Like,
Exactly.
your sexual preference is different than who you are, and that's where, if we could get, if I don't know if we could ever get to, like, as a society, probably not the way we're going, but it's like, people put too much emphasis on it. So that's
Yeah.
when you get the kids, it's like, and this. And then, of course, there's still churches that do conversion therapy. Okay. So we still, in 2024, have places that are trying to convert people into other things, and then demonizing what people do, and then
Exactly.
categorizing, again, throwing them in a box. Well, if you like this, you got to be over here. And that's why I used to tell people, because I've been someone who's experimented. I've been all over the place, but I'm like, but I'm not in anybody's box. I'm not anything. I'm like,
Yeah,
they're very
exactly.
two different categories. I'm a woman. That's what I am.
Yeah.
I don't walk around and say I'm a straight woman. I don't go, I'm a cis woman and all this other crazy shit. I'm just a
Yeah.
woman. That's it. My preferences of what I like in my personal life are just that. Has nothing
Exactly.
to do with
They're your preferences, and that's what people need to understand, is that your
exactly.
preferences will be different than somebody else's. So why does it matter? If they don't match up with yours, then okay, then don't worry about what people do.
Right.
If
Like,
your
when
friend
you
wants
meet
to sleep with
people,
guys and he's a guy, let him do
right.
that. Who cares?
It's like, when you meet people, you're like, you'll see you have similar interests. And if we don't have interests, we're not going to talk about those things, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm not going to make you talk about shit you don't want to talk about. I'm not going to make you be around some shit you don't want to be around. And I think people just mistake that. Just like,
Yeah.
stop trying to force people into your world. It's your world, right? Find people who are into similar shit. But I
Exactly.
do think we overemphasize sex on, and we put it as more of a personality and characteristic, when it's definitely not. It's not that. And you shouldn't be looked at because of whatever your experience, or you want to, let me go play over here. So I call it playing. You're playing over there. If you want to play over
Yeah.
there today and not tomorrow, hey, that's on you. Do your
And then,
thing.
and speaking of sex, the whole question of, oh, how many number of partners you have? No, don't ask that question if you're not ready for the answer. Let me tell you right now, don't ask, because half of you aren't ready, because then you'll be like, oh no, this. Who cares?
It's to me, it's the demacity behind it, right?
Mm-hmm.
you are not asking that question out of curiosity. You're asking that out of insecurity. There's no
Exactly.
one, if you're secure about who you are, you don't care. If you like someone, I like you for you. I don't care what your
Exactly.
past was. Why? Because it's your past. I'm the present, right? So if you can just take your, your ego, right? It's over here like, oh my God, who, most I say this, we we talk about this on so many shows, and I'm like, most guys would not ever know if their girl cheated on them. So if you
Yeah.
think that you'll just know by feeling, you won't. There's, the vagina is made to expand and shoot out a fucking baby. You're not going to know. And it could
Exactly.
retract. You're not going to know. So this whole thing of like, oh my God, you've been to so many people, you're all worn out and you're, all this stuff. It's just like, that's a myth. That's not even
Exactly.
real. And I talk about like, because there's all these podcasts, I'm sure you've seen them, where the
Yeah.
guys are constantly talking about that. And I'm like, these guys who say they want virgins
Oh God.
until you're with a virgin, and then you're bored of her. And I was like, if that was a thing, right, and men just truly wanted virgins, why is porn the way it is? Why is porn
Exactly.
such a billion-dollar, industry? It's not
Exactly.
women who have accounts, okay? There's not many women who have porn accounts. They'll watch it, sure, but who's paying the money? Men
Men.
are.
OnlyFans as well.
Right. So if all of these men just want traditional women and virgins, why would porn be a thing? Why? Because everyone knows virgins have no experience, right?
Hmm.
You're going to be with this person who has zero fucking experience, right? That's going to be cool for all of 2.5 seconds because you get the virginity, right? And then you're going to be bored. Her teeth are scraping where you don't want her to scrape. You don't know how to tell her, and she doesn't know because she has no fucking experience.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I'm dying of it, but you are not wrong at all.
I say this shit. It's like, come on, let's be fucking real. You're
Right.
like, she doesn't know what to do, so you're gonna get bored, and you want what? The one over there who's experienced. Who is
Right.
that? The prostitute, the porn star, the girl who has 500 fucking people. So it's like you're not asking this question. It's all out of your own insecurity. Otherwise, you wouldn't care. you know,
Exactly.
unless through your experience you got some fucking STDs that you need to tell somebody about, sure, you know. But it's like people think just because you've been with multiple partners that you're just filled with all these STDs. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I got STDs from a man I was with for 8 years. That was the one that cheated on me and gave me shit. That's the one I had to fucking deal with the problems with, not when I was
Yeah.
single and dating. So
Yeah.
it's like we have this perception of this. And again, we're putting so much emphasis on sex and then pretending that it doesn't matter. And I need a virgin and I need a traditional woman. Really? Do we
Yeah. It goes.
really?
It goes back to what you said though. You'll get that woman, and then you're like, no, that's not. No, it's not what I wanted. No,
Yeah.
no.
The same thing of a woman who wants the man who cries. No, you fucking don't. No, you don't.
Exactly.
There's not one woman who's at work like, oh my God, my man cried last night. Please, someone in the comments, tell me what conversation have you ever heard in your work life? No, I've never heard a conversation where someone's at work just blasting and so proud of their man who cried last night. Give me a
Right.
fucking break. No, it's the same shit.
Right. Well, my man sobbed like a little baby in the corner. I coddled him the whole
And
time.
I
It's
said they
like,
hold
what?
him and nurture him in that moment. No, no one ever fucking says that.
They don't, but they're telling you just like your instant thoughts, like, yeah, I think you're lying to me over there, but I can't tell right now.
Right. It's bullshit. So I'm like, get your head out of your ass. Get over yourself. Your person is
Yeah.
going to love you. Just because this person has been with 10 other people doesn't mean that they're going to look at you. People act like we don't compare. We compare everything. We compare apples to fucking oranges all day long. That's what we do. So yeah, no matter if you met a virgin or not, they're going to compare you to something. Their father, whoever
Exactly.
the fuck was around them, they're going to compare you to
Right.
somebody, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Exactly.
people don't want to be judged, just like that's the nature of things. We're going to
Yep.
be judged. We're going to be compared. And if that person really likes you, no matter what you got going on, they're going to like that. But men, it's
Exactly.
crazy because what men don't realize, you could be horrible in bed, but if this woman really likes you, she's going to deal with it. She's going to deal with it. She's
It's
going to
funny you
love
say
it.
that too. I had a person tell me that too. He had a very small, had a small dick. Basically goes, oh well, I made it work. I'm like, and that's great. That's
Right.
just like you said. They're dedicated. They're trying to make it work. and things like that. I get that. That's awesome. Listen, you're trying. At least you're trying versus not doing anything about it. These people that cheat, it's like, then why were you in a relationship in the first place? You don't want to be here. Just say you don't want to be here.
Right, right,
That's all you had to say. It's just tell them,
right.
hey, this isn't working out for me. I think we should go our own separate ways. Is it going to hurt? Yeah, it's going to hurt. But at the end of the day, at least you were honest with them.
You know, what people fail though, a lot of what, again, these are myths. People think when someone cheats, it's about them, and it really isn't. It has nothing to do with you. Most of probably 99% of the time has nothing to do with you. You didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't about you. It's about this person and what they're going through and what they perceive that they need. Because what happens, that person comes back to you, right? They
Exactly.
come back to you because they realize, oh yeah, that was fun for 2.5 seconds, but that's not where I want to be.
They're
So
like, the
again,
grass is green on the other side, basic theory.
right. And it's like not every woman is just running around wanting this big fucking porn sized dick. That's what I call again, men watching porn. The myths of life. Not everybody's running around like wanting
Yeah,
that
exactly.
shit.
Exactly. Right. Right. And then you get it, and then you're like, oh, it hurts too much. All right, that's just too,
Yeah,
no, you
no.
wanted
There's
this,
a
right?
lot
This
of
is what you
women
told
who
everybody you
do
wanted.
not want, they like average, okay? Men,
Right.
please understand this. Not every woman wants that porn star shit. No, it's
No.
too much. Too much. And who would want that all the fucking time? No, right?
Right.
It's like if we could just come back down and get out of our own way, we wouldn't have to sit here and ask all these stupid ass questions. Ask some real questions, ask them real questions. I don't care about your past like that. Now, there are some things I would care about when you're talking to someone dating, of course, because your
Yeah.
morals and values should line up. That's the conversation you should have, right? How many partners you had, it doesn't matter unless, what, are you a molester? Did you have children in that aspect? Like, I'm like, what are you fucking asking?
Exactly. What are you trying to get at there, FBI? Calm down now. Relax.
It's like, come on, like, what are we really asking people?
Exactly.
It's just like this whole like, oh, your chastity and all this shit. I just laugh at these podcasts of the shit that they say, and I'm just like, yeah, it's a bunch of bullshit. You guys don't want a bunch of virgins running around. Like, no, you don't. And there's plenty of women who have lied their whole fucking life and never told anyone they were with anyone, and their partners believe them. Okay. We wouldn't have so many women with fathers that unfortunately find out the kids are not theirs 10, 20 years later, right? We wouldn't have so many cases if this wasn't a thing.
Listen,
So,
we wouldn't have Mari if it wasn't for all those extra children. Damn it. Okay, let's be honest here.
like, real shit. He's not the father. It's like 20 people later, we still haven't found the fucking father.
Right.
Like, come on. So it's like, let's get over it. If the person is a decent person, you like them, they like you. What does that all
Exactly.
matter? Even like, if someone's had a bad past, if they were a criminal, it doesn't mean they're a criminal today.
Exactly.
So the same aspect, you would be like, well, this person seems like they've changed. Let me give them a chance. Or you would be like, you know what? I'm sorry, your past is horrible. I can't give you a chance, and go on about your life if that's how you truly feel. But I think we make it so where we have to put somebody down for their choices. We have to put them down and talk shit about them and make them feel
Exactly.
like shit. And it's just like, for what? I know we got to wrap this up. But before we leave, what advice would you give going back to transgenderism?
Right. We got far off topic here, guys. Sorry.
Which I tend to do a lot. But
It's okay, though. But listen, guys, listen. When it comes to transgender, just be open. Listen to them. Ask questions. If you can't ask them questions, how are you going to understand things better? If you have a question, like, be real. Don't go asking them stupid shit just to ask them stupid shit.
right.
Like, literally just ask them, like, and if they're your family member, let them know you support them, because that's the greatest thing of all. Like, not all of these guys have anybody out there to support them. Like my podcast, I tell people, like, if you need somebody, I'm there. Like, I know what it's like to feel alone. I've been there, and I try to make sure I'm to reach out to everybody like that same way. And it's the same thing with them. They're going through this journey. They're going through changes emotionally, mentally. Like, don't be afraid to just ask them, hey, are you doing okay today? Everything all right? And just listen. Maybe they just want a trauma dump and tell you some things. It's okay to ask questions, though. That's what I'm going to keep coming back to. Questions. Just ask, guys. It doesn't hurt to ask.
Right. Definitely, you guys. All right, you guys. We're gonna end that there. I definitely will get you back on, and we'll have some
Okay, for sure. This was great. I love this.
I think we can hit some topics for you guys, right?
Definitely, right?
All right. And until next time, you guys. Bye.
See you later, guys.